Hi, this is Adam Elio Berkowitz. I have a very special guest, a guy I think is going to bring, and I'm not exaggerating, he is going to bring peace to the Middle East, if not to the whole world. His name is Hooman Khalili. Did I say that correctly?
Perfect, perfect.
Okay. Um, it could be a Hebrew name, Hooman Khalili.
It's funny you say that because when I was in Hebron meeting with the mayor, he kept saying, "I can't believe your last name is Khalili,
Yeah,
Khalili, Khalili." He kept saying it because it means from Hebron, friend.
really.
Yeah, because I was
Wow.
desperately trying to put a mural there and they wouldn't give me the wall, but they were just blown away by my last name. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, this is why I do these interviews. There's all these little secrets that come out when we talk face to face. So what Human has been doing, and I'm not exaggerating. I think he's going to first of all, as he's a very special man with a very interesting background. But what he's been doing, if I'm not mistaken, it was about a year and a half ago you began this.
Yeah, that's right. The first should I just jump into it?
Well, what he's
No,
doing is
go.
he's creating murals in Israel. Human is he was born. Were you born Muslim?
Yeah, I was born Muslim in Iran.
He was born a Muslim in Iran, and you're now, if I'm not mistaken, a Christian
That's right. Yeah.
and
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian, and you live in the United States. And what a lot of people miss that Human is very much an example of is Iranians do not hate Israel, and they don't hate Israelis.
It's
The
true.
Iranian Islamist regime hates Israel, hates Israelis, hates Jews, and hates Judaism. And indeed, as a Jew, I look at it and I say, the Second Temple was built through Cyrus, who's very revered, King Cyrus, in by Iranians as part of their history. They have a very long history as Persians. They helped us build the third temple. So I'm kind of hoping that Human is going to help us build the temple. And I think really this war between Israel and Iran, it can literally flip over um, in 1 week if the people of Iran are allowed to be free, and if it could flip over in 1 week because of people like Human. So Human, tell me a little bit about yourself. You have a really interesting personal history.
Yeah, real quickly, I was born in Iran, as you said. My mom escaped with one suitcase, $5,000, 3-year-old boy, 1978, 6 months before the revolution. We ended up in the San Francisco Bay Area because my mom had one friend here through a series of crazy miracles, which we could talk about in the next interview. We were sort of adopted by the First Presbyterian Church of San Mateo. I was raised in that church. I was a Sunday school teacher, youth group counselor, choir director. And that's sort of the overview of how we got to America. In terms of what you were talking about in the intro, oh, and by the way, over the years, I've done many jobs. I was a radio DJ in San Francisco. I'm a creative director over these fancy boutique hotels now. But what you're talking about is in September of 2022, Masa Amini was murdered, and we just celebrated her 2-year memorial.
Who is she?
And when she was, she it depends on where you read, but she was somewhere between 20 and 22. She was very young, and she was beaten to death because a little too much of her hair was out of her hijab. That's what the morality police do in Iran. So anyway, I start getting all these calls from all these Iranians from all around the country. You have influence, you have power, and the Western media isn't covering what's happening to the
Oh my.
Persians, which is 100% true.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah,
Not only is the Western media not covering it, which it's basically a story of an oppressed people being oppressed by an Islamist regime. And not only is the media not covering it, but there are far too many Western governments that are supporting the Islamist regime, supporting their oppression of the Iranian people.
Yeah, it's very true. Every Persian in the world knows that this last administration, at the very least, has given over $20 billion to the Islamic regime. I mean, just
Terrific,
that I
terrific.
yeah, just that idea alone. I mean, you are feeding the machine of war in a way that is incomprehensible to most people.
Mm, absolutely.
So, so because of because this happened, I got a call and speaking to this woman, and she said, "Hey, listen, we got to force the Western media to pay attention." I was like, "Yeah, what do we do?" And she said, "We have to make murals." Now, I'm a filmmaker. I don't really make murals, and I was like, "Oh, I don't do that." She goes, "Just get me a wall. Just get me a wall in San Francisco." So anyway, I got a wall, but I didn't pick the artist. I didn't pick the design. I didn't even pick the wall. I just literally I almost did nothing. I mean, I did one thing. I helped get the wall, but I called the artist afterwards. I said, "Hey, let's take a picture in front of the mural you painted. I got you that wall." And she
Where
said,
was
"Oh
that?
my God." I'm sorry?
Where was that?
San Francisco, in San
Okay.
Francisco. It's on an alley called Clarion Alley at the corner of 17th and Mission. So she says, "Absolutely." We take a picture. The picture goes viral, and one of the people that sees it is the vice mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan.
Oh, she's
And
awesome. She's
she
awesome.
is awesome. She's honestly like, and I was connected to her because of Emily Schrader. And you have two remarkable female spokespeople for the state of Israel in those two. I mean, what a gift to the state
Yeah.
of Israel, those two women.
There are
So,
actually there are actually several powerful Israeli women. I mean, we of course had Golda Meir in her day, but there's also Tzipi Hotovely. There's what's her name? She was a model. Um,
Noah Tishby.
no, but there are a lot. Yeah, also she was also an amazing spokesperson. There are a lot of powerful women in Israel, which is what I really love about your murals, but we'll get to that. Okay, so you did the one in San Francisco. It went viral.
So then Fleur says, "I want murals in Israel in support of the women of Iran." She says, "We can't, we have to, I'm not going to do the deal over the phone. If you want to do these murals, you have to fly to Israel. You have to sit in my office and meet me face to face." 3 days later, I'm sitting in her office. I said, "Do you have a wall?" She said, "No." I said, "Do you have an artist I can collaborate with?" She said, "No." I said, "Am I paying for this?" She said, "Yes."
It's so Israeli. It is so Israeli. We work on faith
So,
and shoelaces. We work.
so then, 26 days later, by the grace of God, the first mural went up in Jerusalem in Talpiot, right next to the Hadar Mall.
Oh, I know that area.
And,
Sure.
and when Fleur was giving her speech, she said, "I have been vice mayor of Jerusalem for 7.5 years. I have never seen anything come together in 26 days." And, she doesn't use the word miracle too often, but she said, "This is a miracle. This is a miracle."
So
And since that day, and
since
by the
then,
way, on January 9th, 2023, for one day and one day only, the whole world loved Israel. The whole world showed that Israel was standing with the freedom fighting women of Iran.
I'm in.
And
Also, if I'm not mistaken, the former was it Danny Danon, the former
yes,
UN ambassador, he ripped into the United Nations on the floor for not supporting Iran.
not only did he do that, but just 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when there was the anniversary of Masa Amini, he took a picture of my mural in the Museum of Tolerance in the city center, and he tweeted it and posted it and said again, "We stand with the women of Iran. We stand with the women of Iran."
Yes, yes. So you had one miracle pop into the world. How many of these miracles have you done since?
By the grace of God, I've gone to Israel 15 times in 19 months, and as a result, I have 16 murals.
16. And you're planning on 2 more in the near future.
Yeah, I have a group of Christians that pray over me, and they said these murals are so much more than just a piece of art.
Oh, they
And
are. Oh my gosh.
oh, thank you.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and one woman had a real strong inclination that a mural needs to go in Elot. So I'm gonna unveil a mural in Elot
I
on
can
September
understand that.
30th, and then I'm waiting for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to tell me where the final mural is gonna be unveiled the morning of October 7th.
If I get a wall for you and maybe a little bit of funding, would you be able to do one in the Golan?
100%,
Oh yes.
100%. I would
Oh
love
yes.
to. I would
We'll
love
work on
to,
that. We'll
honestly.
work on that as soon as I get off this Zoom call. So you did one picture that you should send me on WhatsApp that floored me. It was just such a powerful image, with such a clear and powerful message. And I'm not an artist. You did a picture of the helicopter
Yes.
of, was that what's his name?
Reisi.
Raisi, the president of Iran, who just strangely enough had a helicopter crash. And you have this helicopter with the hand of God pushing it down from above, and below you have women flinging up their hair, wrapping it around the helicopter and dragging it down. And you wrote on it woman, life, freedom, and you wrote on it, Esther's of the world rise up. Esther, Esther and Mordecai were in Iran, the city of Shushan. Their tomb is still there, preserved by the Iranians despite the Islamist regime. So this powerful woman figure in the Bible, one of, if not the most powerful woman figure, was Iranian. And she saved the Jewish people. And I saw this image and I'm like, an Esther Revolution. And that's what's happening. That's the crazy thing. That's what's happening in Iran. It's an Esther Revolution. It's a revolution of women, which you would think Western culture would be, ooh, women. You would think.
Well, you said a lot there, so let me address all of it real
Sure.
quickly. Yeah,
Sure.
so
You get me excited, dude. I'm really.
so when Reisi's helicopter mysteriously crashed into the Alborz Mountains, there was art all over the internet. And there was an underground artist, a woman somewhere in the Middle East, because I can't say, and I saw her art and I saw somebody post it. And I messaged the guy in Germany and I said, ask that person if I can use their art for a mural in Israel, in Tel Aviv, because no other city was going to accept that mural in Israel. It's so controversial. So the guy called me back in 1 minute. He said, yes, use the image. But the image in itself wasn't biblical enough. Now, Raisi, you have to know, is responsible for killing 20,000
Yes.
Iranians.
Yes.
20,000. He's killing his own people. And so that image of the women shooting up their hair, wrapping it around the helicopter, pulling it down, those are all the women he murdered.
Oh my gosh.
But there's a very, in the Bible, over and over, you being a Jew know this, God says, I'm going to put my throne in Jerusalem. I'm going to put my throne in Zion. I'm going to put my throne in Israel. I'm going to put my throne in Zion. Over and over, you see God, this theme of God's throne. But then there's this one obscure verse that no rabbi ever talks about and no Christian pastor ever talks about. And it's Jeremiah 49:38. And it says, I will set my throne in Elam and destroy her king and officials, declares the Lord. Elam is the ancient name of Iran. Elam is where Cyrus was born, and Elam is where the whole book of Esther took place. Elam is Iran. Iran, Elam are the same. So whenever you see Elam or Persia in the Bible, that is Iran. And those are the Persian people. And the reason is because over and over again in the Bible, whenever God says, Who will stand with the Jews? Who will stand with the Jews? The Persians always say, we will stand with the Jews. We have been friends for 3,000 years, and we have only been enemies for less than 50. And so I really feel like God is calling me, he's commissioning me to rebuild this bridge between the Persians and the Jews. And of the 15 million Jews in the world, 500,000 of them are Iranian Jews. 4% of all the Jews.
Sure.
And you know, being Jewish, those Jews, they're all from the time of Esther. You know, you talk to certain people, they're like, those are the purest Jews. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know what that means, but it's an unbroken line since 1500 BC, right?
The Iranian people forget. It stuns me how people don't learn recent history. The Iranian Revolution was in 1978. Before 1978, Iran and Israel were very close allies. The Iranian oil that was shipped out to the world all came through a lot. It was a real alliance in every way. And to think that, you know, and people seem to, oh, Iran is the enemy of it. It's not the enemy of Israel. And if Iran changed regimes, and I remember seeing this picture. There was a protest in Tehran, and there was a road sign for Palestine Road, and the people tore it down and were stomping on it. And Dr. Mordechai Kedar explained to me, the Iranian regime is using all its money to prop up all, like, the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah, and the people are starving. So the people hate Palestinians. They hate Hamas. They hate Hezbollah. They hate the Houthis. And they see Israel as the source of freedom. And we were allies for thousands of years. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Jewish community in the world outside of Israel.
One of the things the Persian people particularly love, and you know, I know you just said the Persian people hate the Palestinians. We don't hate the Palestinians. There's so many good Arabs out there, okay? But yes,
Fair enough.
the ones that want to create chaos and hatred, we are not down with at all. You know, and listen, you said it best. You stabilize Iran, you've stabilized the whole Middle East. That's at the heart of what you are saying. And that's what every Iranian wants. Iranian is sick of seeing all eyes on Gaza, all eyes on Lebanon. All eyes should be on Iran.
Oh my
Put all
gosh.
your eyes on Iran.
Oh my
That's where all the
gosh.
eyes of the world should be, you know? But yeah, so anyway, back to the mural.
I also want to point out, if I may, one more thing, that when you look at the pictures of Iran before the Iranian Revolution, and if you study what was happening in Iran before the Iranian Revolution, there was no question there was no women's liberation. Women were flourishing in Persia. They were the academics, they were all of the professions. They were at least half of the universities. It was a very powerful pro-woman culture. So it's the exact opposite of what is in Iran right now.
100%. And any country that's like funding the Islamic regime is doing a detriment not just to the Persian people, you're doing a detriment to the whole world.
Absolutely.
The whole world suffers because of that. And for the longest time, you know, I think many Persians were very silent on this because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for us. And now we're like, forget it. Like, we have to speak up. This is the time. And you know, you made a comment earlier. You said, you know, about the women in the Esthers. You know, in America, every book, every film, every television show is about what? It's about a woman superhero. In Iran, you actually have women superheroes. You have real life women superheroes, and no one's talking about it. You know, they'll make as many sort of Miss Marvel movies and sort of Black Panther movies with women's heroes, but they're all fake.
Yeah.
And you have real ones, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah, you have these angry women in the universities and they think that being a great woman and is like, oh, because I can do an abortion, I'm powerful. And then you see these like 17-year-old girls in Iran dancing in the streets, taking off their hijab and risking their lives for women's freedom. That's
Yeah,
power. That's power. It's really,
100.
and it's an Esther movement. That's
Yeah, it really is. And so back to that mural, the reason I put the hand of God in is to fulfill Jeremiah 49:38. I will set my throne in Elam, destroy her king and officials. That moment is God destroying the officials of Iran. And the prayer is, God, fulfill Jeremiah 49:38. Let Iran be free.
amen. Amen.
Oh,
Yeah, it's funny. There are places that people look at the newspaper and they think, oh, these are the enemies of Israel. And it's not true. Iran, Persia is certainly one of them. Lebanon helped us build the temple.
yeah.
These are countries that have a deep spiritual relationship with Israel, and it's been perverted. It's been flipped over, and
It is. And one of the things that's really worth pointing out is, look, there's 16 murals. They're all in Israel. I am showing the world that the Jews are standing with the freedom fighting women of Iran, but I'm also showing the world that Israel is the only place in the Middle East that allows a mural with a woman's hair showing. This is a big deal. There are no murals in Afghanistan, Qatar, Lebanon, UAE, Iraq, So I don't understand this because I live in the woke capital of America. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the hatred for the Jews is insane. It's at an all-time high. It's almost unbearable how bad it is. And
yeah.
I sit with my Jewish friends and I reassure them every day, I'm standing with you. I'm vocal. Look, to date, the Israeli government hasn't paid for one mural. This is how important this is that I'm willing to spend all of my savings, all of my money on this one mission. And I am believing, God is going to provide. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. I hope that's in the Jewish Bible. If not, it's in the Bible.
Okay.
But God owns everything, and I know he's gonna provide the funds.
So I have a friend Marzi
Yeah.
who is also an Iranian Christian. I should say that one time, I guess it was like 8 years ago, I went to the March of the Nations, the Parade of the Nations in Jerusalem during the Feast of the Tabernacles, during Sukkot.
Yeah.
And Christians came from all over the world to express their love for Jerusalem. And I was in Gan Saker in the park, and this couple was waving an Iranian flag. And they showed me that their Iranian flag was the Persian flag because it did not have the symbol of Islam on it. And
Okay.
these Iranian Christians gave me a big hug, and I was just like, I need to reevaluate reality. This is not the reality as I used to think of it. So what's up with Christianity in Iran?
So it depends on who you talk to, but many experts say Iran is the fastest growing church in the entire world.
I have heard that.
And there are 90 million people in Iran, and there's well over 1 million people attending underground church in Iran every week. So it's very dangerous, and I'm actually on the board of an organization called Transform Iran, and they help oversee the underground church in Iran. But since this revolution, I've heard so many mixed reviews, but I've heard even reports saying 40,000 mosques have
I have.
closed. You've heard that as well.
Yeah, Marzi was telling me, and I'm like, Marzi, I like you, but really? And she's like, oh yeah. And then I looked into it, and the data is very sketchy. There's
Oh, it is sketchy. Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to say, oh no, there are no Christians in Iran, and then you start hearing other data that says, well, there's a lot, and that
There's
it's
a lot of Christians and there's a lot of people leaving the Islamic faith.
sure.
So both things are happening. Um, I think
Iran is not originally Muslim, which people don't
exactly.
realize.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Iran was a Zoroastrian country, and I felt like it was meant to stay a Zoroastrian country. But it was conquered so many times by uh, people of Islamic backgrounds, and we lost our original language. And so, these things happen. There's no lamenting the past, but this whole idea that, Iran is supposed to be a Muslim country is really, really false.
I think Americans misunderstand several very essential things about Iran. Iran is not Arab.
Right.
Iran is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the source of the word Aryan.
That's
They
exactly right. Yeah.
they're not.
So
Yeah, I'm
so
into this. I'm into
yeah,
this. You're
Hitler
not
stole
Arab.
that.
You're not originally Muslim. So this whole, but and they're Shia, and they're not Sunni like the Arab
Yeah.
world. So there's a
So yeah, it doesn't make sense. So Aryan, actually, if you translate that word, Iran means land of the Aryans. That word. So it was actually Elam, then it was Iran, then it was Persia, and then it was back to Iran. That's
mm,
sort of. And so yeah, Hitler stole that word because he wanted to give the Germans a history that they didn't have. He
that's
wanted to extend their. So that word is sort of like we can't use it anymore. We can't say we're the true Aryans because it has such a bad connotation to it. But it's the truth. We are the Caucasus Mountains, Caucasian.
right.
I mean, that's the
Sure.
Persians. So yeah, we are very, obviously, look, all of us in the Middle East are tied together. All of us, the Jews, the Arabs, the Persians, we're all Middle Eastern. But yeah, we have some huge things that distinguish us from the Arab world,
Oh my
including our
gosh.
language and our culture and even our history. From what I understand, everything I've read, Iran has the longest written history of any people in the world.
I was shocked because I'm very, oh, we're Jewish, and then I look at the history of Iran and I'm like, ooh, these guys have been around a while. So it's
We have. And I just want to go back to one thing you said. Look, there were three times in the Bible where God called and said, "Who will stand with the Jews?" With Cyrus allowing the Jews to return from Iran to rebuild the temple, as you pointed out, the whole book of Esther takes place in Iran, the whole book of Esther. And then if you look at the New Testament, the Christian Bible, when Jesus was born, who did he call? He called the Persians, the Magi, to bring the gifts to Jesus. So every time God called, he called, the Persians said yes.
ooh, wow, I didn't know that. That's actually incredibly. It's almost a hint to the temple.
It is a hint to the temple, and it's a hint to once that bond is made again, I think things are going to change in the world in a way we can't imagine. And so keeping that tension between the two countries, not allowing them to become brothers like they've been for 3,000 years is one of the reasons we have so much chaos and so much division in the world.
I can
And
only.
listen, I know this is a big statement, but I'm just gonna say it. I know God is using me to rebuild this bridge. I am believing it. I am trusting it. He is. I have people who have lived in Israel their whole lives, and they say to me, Hooman, we have never seen anyone with this kind of favor. Never. You keep leaving, you keep coming back, another mural, all this press.
I'm
You
stunned. In a year and a half, 16 murals. I mean, Israel, we move at a biblical pace. So
That's what I hear. I hear everything is just so slow and they make everything so
and
much more complicated.
bureaucracy and
The
paperwork and
bureaucracy. But and look at God's timing here. Human number 18 is going to be on October 7th. And so I here, if you were to say to me, Human, if you could pick anywhere in Israel, where would you want it to be? I want the government to build me a wall exactly where the Nova Music Festival was. And I want
oh,
mural 18
dude,
there. And
wow.
I have gone to the government like 10 times and said, did you build that wall yet? Did you build that wall? I mean, they're looking at Ashdod, they're looking at, I'm gonna mispronounce it, Moadine,
It's
something like that.
Modine, Modine.
Yeah, Modine. But I want that wall in the Nova Music Festival.
That would be
Pray for me,
wow,
everyone.
wow, wow, wow. That's a powerful place. I can't go near it. I don't have the
If
spiritual
if
ability.
this mural goes up, brother, you better be there.
Okay. It's difficult for me, but I promise you that I will. And
Okay, well,
it will be difficult. Um,
I understand.
I mean, there's a lot of things, it's also the timing is so powerful. The fact that did you start before or after October 7th?
I started the first 7 murals went up before October 7th.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Because you started it, you had no idea that there was,
No.
I mean, Israel has been at odds with Iran for decades, and it just exploded, and you happen to be standing there already making your murals. That's wow.
Well, I'll tell you one quick story. I when October 7th happened, I called and everyone's like, "Don't call, everything's crazy, everything is like, and don't come back." And I had finished 7, and I remember like falling on my knees about a month into calling and trying to get back into the country and saying, "God, what do I do? Like, is this it?" And God's like, "Who are you gonna listen to? You gonna listen to man, or you gonna listen to me?" And so I just jumped on a plane anyway in December, and I sat in a hotel room in Tel Aviv and I said, "I'm here. I have a new design. Any chance we can?" And they said, "Send us the design. We told you not to come. Send us the design." I sent it.
That's
I sent
actually
it,
very Israeli to do what you did,
and and they loved the design and they put it on the Museum of Tolerance. That one's probably my most famous one.
Wow, the Museum of Tolerance in Jerusalem.
Yeah, in the city
Wow.
center. I mean, it's so funny because, there's that verse in the Bible, "Do not despise the day of small beginnings." And at the beginning, I was sort of, Talpiot, that's kind of, and then, I was in the Shuk in Netanya, and I was in Nazareth, but I was close to the Church of the Annunciation. I was all these like odd places. And then God's like, "Don't despise those small beginnings, human. I'm about to unleash something big." And then he put it on the Museum of
I
Tolerance.
mean, in Israel, there's the experience of space and time that a lot of Westerners don't connect with, which is one place is not like another place. Each place has its own unique power. Talpiot it's written in the Torah, it's named it's like a shopping center in Jerusalem, but it has its sources in the Torah, and it's a power spot. And
Yeah.
and
And by the way, I do have a mural in Svat.
oh, well, Tzfat is really, I
Isn't
should
that a
say,
miracle?
that Tzfat is another power spot.
I'm trying to still get Hebron, and I still want a mural in Tiberias and the Golan, of course. So, and here I'll tell you something top secret. So all of the murals that support the women of Iran all have the words "woman, life, freedom" on it. That's how you know it's the women of Iran. It's not necessarily the women in the picture or anything, but it has to have those 3 words. And then in all my murals, I also have the words, "It's time for the Esthers of the world to rise up," because it's the first woman-led revolution in the history of the world. So I have those things, but I am working on a mural that is a little bit out of the norm. I'm working on an Abraham Accord mural, and
Really.
I designed it last night. Yeah,
So
and so I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, don't tell anyone. I want to sneak it into Israel on October 5th or 6th somewhere.
so there's two things I have to say. One is, pardon me,
Um,
that according to Kabbalah, the final redemption will come through the power of women. It's compared to the women playing the tambourines after the splitting of the Reed Sea. Also, if you really read the whole story of the children of Israel leaving Egypt, it was all through the women. I mean, yes, Moses and Aaron, but they were, barely actors. It was, even the daughter of Pharaoh, you had Miriam. Um, we have a tradition that Pharaoh's, when he made the decree to kill all the children, the men were like, okay, so we're not gonna have kids. And the women were like, oh no, and they dressed up and said to their husbands, we're gonna have children.
Mm.
So the final redemption is going to be the same way. It's going to be through the power of women, represented by the moon. The moon represents women, and the power of the moon. So an Esther Revolution, the first women's revolution in the history of mankind, I think is an incredibly powerful expression at this time. Also, if I can, one more thing: if you're working on the Abraham Accords, there is an Iranian element in that.
Oh, tell me.
The Iranian element is this. The reason, one of the main driving forces for the Abraham Accords was this. Iran was threatening the Strait of Hormuz, which was threatening the entire oil industry of the Arab oil nations, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates, and even Saudi Arabia. And it's the Strait of Hormuz is incredibly narrow. They can threaten it and cut it off very easily. So what people didn't realize was, as I said, the Iranian oil used to go through a lot. The Iranian oil tankers used to go up to a lot, and they would offload the oil, and there was a pipeline that went from a lot to Haifa.
Mm.
And Haifa is a deep water port, and it could take super tankers. And they would load the oil from the pipeline from a lot, load it onto the super tankers, and then to Europe. One of the reasons being super tankers can't go through the Suez Canal, and another reason is the Suez Canal is incredibly expensive. So they didn't really want to use the Suez Canal. So there's this oil pipeline. I don't know if it's finished yet, but one of the reasons they wanted the Abraham Accords was they wanted to build a pipeline from Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates to Eilat. So the oil would go via pipeline directly to Eilat, then make a right turn and go up to Haifa. So the oil would be going from all the Arab nations to Haifa nonstop through pipeline. So the Arabs wanted a deal with Israel.
Mm.
And it's all because of the Iranian pipeline in Israel.
Wow.
So if God willing, very soon the Islamist regime in Iran falls, Iran will be shipping their oil through Israel, along with the Arab nations.
Wow.
So that's how
Wow.
that's how Iran is actually involved deeply, could be involved even more with the Abraham Accords. Perhaps even signing.
Yeah. The way I designed it last night is really, I looked at all the other designs that I saw that sort of, included
So
Bahrain and the UAE and
So what's
yeah.
your take on the as a Persian, as an Iranian, what's your take on the Abraham Accords?
Okay, so I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't think about the Abraham Accords at all. I don't even want to do the mural of the Abraham Accords. But
Okay.
the
Fine.
reason I'm even doing it is because in conversation over the last few months, it has come up so many times, and I just had to stop and pray and say, God, why am I hearing about this thing out of the blue that I've never heard about before over the last 3 months? Like, do you want me to do something? And so I was having writer's block as I was designing this, and I would take like days off, and I just kept saying, hearing God say, "You got to work on that design. You got to finish that. You got to finish that." And so I'm sort of doing it as an act of obedience because there are so many groups interested in seeing this come together, and it's almost like I'm taking on this blind assignment. So I don't know too much about it.
Well, You know, they say
I-
the enemy of your enemy is my friend.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you have the allies of the Iranian Islamist regime are my enemies. So your enemies, the Islamist regime, are my enemies as well. When Israel has killed a lot of IRGC, Iranian military people, in Lebanon and Syria, because
Wow.
they are our enemies. Last
Wow.
night there was at least one Iranian who was killed with his beeper because
Yeah, I saw that.
because he's using the same beepers as Hezbollah. So
So, what do you know about that, if you wouldn't mind me asking? So, were these bombs already planted in? Oh, they were.
there's a lot of questions about who actually manufactured and sold these beepers. They bought 5,000 beepers. And the reason was that they realized that Israel was monitoring their cell phones.
Yeah, of course.
So they said, let's go low tech, let's get beepers. And so they bought these beepers, and I think was it Singapore or somewhere in Asia that the company that made these beepers, and they said, oh no, we didn't do it. But apparently when they manufactured them, they put in a big chunk of explosive.
That's
And
incredible.
they sent out a signal, and they all exploded. I think within half an hour, all of them exploded. So
Well, the amazing thing is, you and I both know that there are some beepers out there still that are not owned by Hezbollah that didn't detonate. So there's a lot going on here. Somebody's got a beeper with some explosion in it that is safe still, right?
yeah,
It, so, so there's that. So it's really, honestly, in terms of, like, you know, warfare and stuff, it's genius.
it's unbelievable. And the United Nations is condemning Israel for it. And it's like, excuse me, these beepers were handed out by Hezbollah. The only people who had the beepers were Hezbollah. So this is like perfect warfare. There were no
It is.
bystanders, and they're condemning it because you know why? The world is really splitting up, not according to politics, but good and evil.
100%. So
And
glad you said that.
people who hate, and it's not that Israel is so wonderful or so righteous. I mean, it is. I think so far as a country, I'm very proud of it, and I'm incredibly proud of Jewish history. But we're the litmus test. We're the one that says, are you good or are you bad? Who are you for?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've got about like 5 minutes here. Is there any
okay, uh,
yeah,
we
tell me
got
if you've got
we
any.
we got to we got to keep the people wanting more. So we didn't
Right.
tell the entire story. You're certainly not done your murals. And God willing, we're going to see major changes in Iran in the near future. This could have people don't understand. This could literally happen overnight. You have all the people of Iran standing outside the doors of the government saying, "We want you gone."
Yeah.
And when you have a situation like that, it can happen. I mean, the 78 Iranian Revolution happened like very quickly. So
Very
this
good. And Afghanistan crumbled overnight too.
also this could
So
happen. I'm looking, Donald Trump did all the sanctions against the Iranian regime. Joe Biden, there's more trade between America and Iran than there has ever been. There it went up 46% in 1 year. Last year, they're $100 billion worth of money they freed up to the Irans, and this is all against the people of Iran, against the Esther Revolution that's just waiting at the door, waiting to happen. Human,
wow.
we're going to
Thank
be in
you.
touch. God,
Yes.
God willing, this is a developing story, as we say in the trade. Thank you so much, Human. I'm going to put the links people, you've got to look at these murals. They're so inspiring.
Yeah, and I have a website. It's Hooman HOOMAN.TV. So you can see all the murals there.
I actually am looking right at it. So so I'll put all the links in. Folks, if you want to see more with Hooman, just shoot me a message and I'll be happy. If you have any questions you want to ask him, I'll be happy to put them up. And hopefully I'll meet him in person when he comes to Israel soon.
Amen.
Thank God. Thank you all. Be blessed. Be blessed from Israel. And we're all hoping for God to come down and make everything right. God will.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Hooman.
Thank you.